From 1975 to 2011, Ray Dalio built the most successful hedge fund in the world. Bridgewater Associates never lost more than 4% during any calendar year from 1991 to 2020, and it only did so during 3 calendar years. On the first day of 2011, at age 60, Dalio announced that he would step down as CEO after more than 35 years at the head of Bridgewater Associates. And thankfully for us, he used his newly available free time to write the best-selling book, Principles. This book became one of my all-time favorites. It's about all the principles that Ray Dalio came up with and followed during his 35-year career as an investor to be successful in the stock market, but also to face challenges and find solutions in his personal life. Hey guys, welcome to a new video. I'm especially pumped about this one because I'm filming my first video in my new office/studio. I'm still working on a ton of things. There's a lot of boxes still wrapped and packed lying around, and I'm also working on the whole background situation. I don't have proper lighting at the moment. I'm working with natural light, which is a big no-no in video filming, but there's a ton of exciting things to come that are gonna fix this. So yeah, I'm super excited about shooting new content in this space. So subscribe to the channel, leave a comment for more. And yeah, let's get started with this week's video. In one chapter of the book in particular, Ray Dalio lays down an amazing 5-step process he follows to reach his goals. It's based on the premise that you should never discard a goal because you think it's unattainable. What you think is attainable is only a function of what you know at the moment. There is always at least one best possible path that will either get you to your goal or get you much closer to it than you ever thought was possible. So let's get started with the 5 steps of the system. Each of the steps is divided in subsections that explain how to make progress within the step you're at in order to move on to the next one. Implementing these 5 steps through a virtuous loop will yield results almost every single time, as long as you stick to the system. For each goal you have, use the system once, don't stop until you're done, and then repeat the process with the next goal. So the first step, having a clear goal. So in order to pick your goal and what you want to focus on for the next 4 steps, you need to understand a very important concept called prioritization. Because you can have virtually anything you want in life, but not everything. For instance, I myself started and never launched dozens of projects for nearly 10 years because I didn't know what I actually wanted. I was all over the place. I created a t-shirt store, trading algorithms, I tried selling art on Instagram, I painted on skateboards, I tried to sell that too. And eventually, I picked one thing and only one, and I decided to commit to focus all this energy I had. I decided to channel that into blogging. And I decided that as a rule, I would keep at it for at least 6 months to see where it would take me. And 3 years later, I'm still at it. I built a blog from 0 to over 12,000 followers, which by any measure is a pretty great achievement for this type of platform, medium.com. I've written over 250 articles and I'm making consistent income from this. And I'm now using the exact same blueprint for YouTube. I'm just trying it out for a few months, giving it all my energy, making the videos, and I'll see where it takes me. But what's important is that I'm clear on that goal and I'm prioritizing it over other things that I would like to do in my life. It's just a step-by-step thing. The second thing about having clear goals is don't confuse goals with desires. A goal is something you want to achieve because it inspires you. Desires are things that you want for no clear reason and that usually prevent you from reaching your goals. The third thing about clear goals is to remember that great expectations create great capabilities. This goes back to what I said in the introduction. Never rule out a goal because you think it's unattainable. I never thought I'd be making money as quickly as I did writing online, and now I can see that there's this whole new horizon of business opportunities waiting for me that I had no idea about before. Not only that, but the more I practice my craft of writing articles and making videos, the more skilled I get, the more options I give myself to grow and branch out and do other things from a business standpoint. Never limit yourself because of what you know you can achieve. Usually you don't know much, and the more you seek to achieve, the more you'll get the skills to achieve. And the last thing on picking a clear goal, almost nothing can stop you from succeeding if you have flexibility and self-accountability. Flexibility is what allows you to accept what reality can teach you when you just don't know better. It can also come from people who know better than you, and you have to accept to get taught or schooled sometimes. Self-accountability is the ability to acknowledge your personal failures and see where you need to be more creative, flexible, and determined in order to get back up and to go after your goal again. Second step, identify and don't tolerate problems. So life is just a big sequence of problems, right? You solve one problem and then you get another one and another one right after that. And once you're done solving that one, you get another one to solve right away. So it's just a sequence of problems after problems. And problems, no matter how painful they are, should be seen as potential improvements that are screaming at you, in the words of Ray Dalio. Each problem you encounter is an opportunity, just like every painful situation in life, every person you can't stand, or every challenge you face. You know, in this video, I'm very much looking at the 5-step system through a business/entrepreneurship lens, but everything in this system applies to life in general as well. And actually, on that note, I highly recommend you read The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama and Howard C. Cutler. Second thing about problems, don't avoid confronting them because they are rooted in harsh realities that are unpleasant to look at. Acknowledging your weaknesses is not the same as surrendering to them. In fact, acknowledging them is the first step towards overcoming them. And in the same way that you should not avoid problems, you should not mistake a cause of a problem with a real problem. For instance, I can't get enough sleep is not a problem, but a potential cause. I am performing poorly at my job could be an actual underlying issue. So that's an example from the book, from Ray Dalio. And finally, he also reminds us that we only have so little time. So just like you should be specific in picking which goal you want to go after and to focus on for each cycle of the system, you should be very specific in identifying which problems are standing in your way. So make sure to invest your energy and your time into the problems that will yield the biggest returns when fixed. Once you identify a big problem that deserves your attention, don't tolerate it. Because if you identify a problem and you still tolerate it, you will still live as if you had failed to identify it in the first place. So work on fixing things you identify in order to make progress. So in the first 2 steps, you have picked one goal to focus on and you've come up with a list of some of the problems in your way to that goal. For now, what you know about is only those problems, and you've identified the biggest ones to tackle. In the 3rd step, we're going to diagnose problems to get at the root causes. Ray Dalio writes, "It is a common mistake to move in a nanosecond from identifying a tough problem to proposing a solution for it. But if you move too fast, you'll most likely, trip over some details you haven't thought through and fall." So the first sub-step of step 3 is to focus on the what is before deciding what to do about it. A good diagnosis typically takes between 15 minutes and an hour, depending on how well it's done and how complex the issue is. Like principles, root causes manifest themselves over and over again in seemingly different situations, which leads us to distinguish proximate causes from root causes. Proximate causes are typically the actions or lack of actions that lead to problems. And a very simple tip to identify those is that they are often described with verbs. For instance, I missed the train because I didn't check the schedule. Root causes run much deeper and they're usually what you want to focus on. Unlike the previous example, they are typically described with adjectives. For instance, I didn't check the train schedule because I am forgetful. You can only truly solve your problems by removing their root causes. If you don't work on the foundation, the underlying filthy stuff, you will solve the issue once and it will come back again and again in your life. And every time it will make you waste time on other problems you could have fixed, but you're gonna have to come back to that solution you had found that's not working anymore. So work on the root causes before anything else. In your quest for diagnosing problems, you will often find that you will need people. And people are a very interesting thing to deal with, because there's a study that you've probably heard before that we get an idea, we essentially judge people within the first 5 seconds we interact with them for the first time. And that's kind of a paradox when you think about it, because we're also told to not to judge people in life and to accept differences. And in the book, Ray Dalio's last point about diagnosing problems, step 3, is that recognize that knowing what someone is like, including you, will tell you what you can expect from them. You will have to get over your reluctance to assess what people are like if you want to surround yourself with people who have the qualities you need. And of course, I totally agree with that. You should surround yourself with the right people to succeed, but I'm not so sure about the whole part of like knowing what people are like. I mean, there are so many people in this world that have amazing potential and that are stuck in this vicious circle of doing what they're expected to do and following the conventional path as a consequence. So I feel like we should take it easy on the judging in general. Maybe you assume that a person is irrelevant for your goal, but maybe you just need to get to know them better. Maybe that's what you assumed on the first day of knowing them, of meeting them. I totally understand there's a balance to be found here. Like you can't just get along with everyone in life and especially take in all the input and all the opinions that people have on your goals and on your journey in life. And you could also argue that people who follow the conventional path and don't use their potential are limiting themselves because it's your decision to create your own path. But I don't know. I just like to remind people everyone is different, everyone comes from a different place, nobody's born the same. So yeah, you need the right people on your side on your journey towards your goal, but be nice to everyone, even the people you may not need in your life. 4th steps. Design plans that will get you around the problems you've identified. So you've got your diagnosis, you've got your team of good people around you, and now you have to think about your problem as a set of outcomes produced by a machine. I really like this approach by Ray Dalio here because life becomes a game when you look at it this way. This also works in parallel with the second point here, which is remember that there are typically many paths to achieving your goal. Different paths can potentially lead to the same goal. So when you think about it, this increases your chances of success because different ways of tweaking your machine can actually take you to the same result. You only have to find one setup or one path that works out of all the other ones that are available that work too. To give you an example of a component of that machine, because the machine metaphor is great, but it's a little abstract. Say that you realize in one of your diagnoses that you're really missing time to get things done. So you're missing time to actually focus on the actions that will lead to successfully reaching your goal. A component of your machine can be your wake-up time, and in that case, you would need to adjust it to wake up earlier to make more time in order to work on your goals in the morning. That's a very simple example of what a component can be. Components can be people too, but the whole point of this is to look at your success machine and its components and to tweak them to output the right goals. Another very important component of designing plans is accountability. Studies on accountability have repeatedly shown that it increases your chances of success by a lot. In fact, the American Society of Training and Development did a study on accountability, and they found out that being accountable to someone bumped up your likeliness to succeed to 65%. If you hold specific accountability appointments with someone, your chances jump all the way up to 95%. That's huge. A while back, I did a 5 a.m. wake-up challenge where I had to wake up at 5 a.m. for a week to see the effects on my productivity. The fact that I had a deal with a friend of mine, we had to send each other a picture of our watch every morning at 5 a.m. And that helped so much in my success because I didn't want to disappoint him. And I also didn't want to seem like a loser who, didn't push through on what he said. Of course, in case of the 5 a.m. challenge, it was only for a week, but you get the point. Accountability can really help you not only design your plan, but as we will see, execute it too. 5th and final step in the amazing Ray Dalio system to reach your goals: do what is necessary to push through the plans to get results. So the last step is essentially about execution. And the first point Ray Dalio makes in this last step is this: great planners who don't execute their plans go nowhere. You can have the best plan in the world, the best people around you to help you succeed, the perfect environment to help you succeed. You can be dealt the perfect cards in life. If you don't execute on your plan to embrace opportunities, you will go nowhere, and you might as well not have a plan. So planning is only half the battle. It takes a lot more than that to win the game of life. Now, on your way to execution, to your goals, you will need to develop good work habits. These are regular, automatic reflexes and reactions to situations that will make your life easier and more productive in the long term. For instance, put in only 1 hour of work every morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. no matter what happens. Just have that hour blocked in your schedule every day. Or another example, if you have a 9-to-5 job, automatically decline meetings between 10 and 11 because that's your focus time. No questions asked. That's a very powerful habit, and trust me, 99.9% of people at the office don't have that. And because because most people don't implement habits in their life and assume that other people are the same, you will find a lot of resistance to your most powerful work habits. And that's because, as Ray Dalio points out in the second subsection of the fifth and final step, good work habits are vastly underrated. Especially in the corporate environment, hyper-productivity is praised more than anything else, even if it leads nowhere. People don't stop for a minute to think, oh, maybe I don't need 20 meetings a day and 10 different productivity apps to keep track of everything. The truth is, the simplest systems are often the most powerful ones. People will get in your way because they don't see the bigger picture. Once you develop good work habits, you can develop that knowledge you get of what good work habits are to identify the people that can lift you up in life and assist you on your journey towards your goals. You know, somebody who spends 5 hours a day at their desk, declines every meeting you send them, and has a good old paper checklist on their desk. You might want to check out what that guy's up to. He can probably do something for you. And now for the last part of the last step. And I could make a whole video about just this one part because I have witnessed firsthand how crucial it is and how it saved the company I worked for during the pandemic. And this is called metrics. If you work in an organization with multiple people involved, I believe the OKR strategy is one of the best systems out there. In a nutshell, OKR stands for Objective Key Results. An objective explains where you want to go, what the end result is, and once an objective is reached, it is replaced with a new one. Objectives are not technical, not measured, and usually don't contain numbers. They should be as easy to understand as possible. A key result is kind of the opposite. It should be as precise, technical, and measured as possible. It is used as an indicator of whether or not the objective is being worked on. Key results are time-bound, and they almost always contain numbers because you measure things with numbers. If you're on your own, the Wheel of Life approach is my favorite system, and you can find a lot of insights about that system here. I will also put the link in the video description down below. Again, in a nutshell, the Wheel of Life divides your life into key areas, and the goal is to individually rate each area and based on your results come up with a concrete action plan to improve and or maintain your different score, and then you implement those actions into a timeline. That's it for the 5-step system by Ray Dalio. Just when I was finishing writing the script of this video, I realized that this whole video is about goals, but if you don't really know what you want to do with your life yet, then this whole system approach is kind of pointless for you because you don't have goals to apply it to. So a really quick note on how to find what you want to do in life. Like Ray Dalio says, some people are good at knowing what to do on their own. They have good mental maps. Maybe they acquired them from being taught. Maybe they were blessed with an especially large dose of common sense. Whatever the case, they have more answers inside themselves than others do. And I can really see myself in what Dalio is saying here. I've been lucky enough to always kind of know inside of me what I wanted to do with my life. Yet I'm almost 30 now, and for the better part of my life, I've been terrible at executing. I never stopped experimenting and trying new things, which is a good thing, but the consequence of that was that I never committed to anything in the long run, which is bad. And around 3 years ago, I took this decision. Like I told you, I decided to commit to blogging for 6 months. And after 6 months, I decided to stick to it, and here I am today, right? 3 years later, and making YouTube videos that you're watching, hopefully. And maybe you have the opposite problem. Maybe you're really good at staying focused and executing on one thing, unlike me, but you don't know what that thing is. Maybe you have none of the above because you haven't found your purpose in life yet. So you don't have goals, you don't know where to start, you're kind of lost, right? If you're in that situation, I encourage you to always experiment with as many different projects as possible. And I also encourage you to talk to as many different people as possible. This will help you get inspiration and ideas and hopefully set yourself on your own personal path to success. And no matter which path you decide to take to get there, remember to enjoy the view and to enjoy the journey. Thanks so much for watching this video. It means the world to me. Stay tuned for next week's video. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, give it a little thumbs up, drop a comment if you have something to say or if that's what you like. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. See you next week. Enjoy the journey you're on.